Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody.
Yeah, happy Tuesday. Good evening, good morning. What time is for you guys?
Ooh,
It's like 3 o'clock.
Yeah, 3 o'clock.
It's not that bad. It's not that
That's
bad.
all right. That's all
It's
right.
good afternoon. So it's good. So we're gonna have Tendril tonight. Before we introduce the guys properly, we're gonna just play a little film for you guys. So this is called The Future Vision of Microsoft 365. Is one of the latest work the guys did, and is coming up next week. Yeah, if I'm right, is on Microsoft Design. They're gonna show properly next week for you guys. So I'm gonna play, and I'll introduce everyone. Just give me 1 second. Share screen. James, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. It's nice.
Oh, cool. So let me put full screen, and there we go. Nice, guys.
I always feel the urge to clap.
You always feel you need to clap. Let me just stop sharing here. Cool.
Very
really
nice.
nice.
You're definitely right about you need. It's nice to start with like a nice chilled vibe in this, especially in the current climate.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah. So before we start, James, let's ask what everyone is drink. Are you guys drink? Are you guys allowed to drink this time?
Yeah,
Yeah, just trying to support the business in the neighborhood.
it's a local Toronto brewery called Bellwoods, and that's
Cool.
their Bellweiser. It's like a tribute to
Is that German?
Budweiser.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, kind of a play on Budweiser.
Yeah. What you drink tonight, James?
It looks like a bottle of champagne, but it's not. It's it's Leffe.
It's like just a small drink.
The first step to admitting you have a problem. What about you, Thiago?
I'm just having a glass of wine tonight.
Nice.
Just a small one. After the guy from Ghana said I drink wine like I drink beer, so I made a smaller glass.
Back on the wagon.
Yeah. So tonight we're gonna have Chris and Alex from Tendril. Thanks so much, guys, to come down. It's gonna be a pleasure to talk to you guys. We're quite big fan of your work. I think I think the first time I saw your work was the early. I think you guys did a short film with live action with monkeys, invading a seat. No.
Oh yeah.
That was the old one.
Yeah.
You go. I just saw the faces and I said, "Fuck, I'm getting confused with this too."
Yeah.
You thought it was a cheese dream or something.
When was that? It was a long time, no?
That was like 8 years ago, I'd say.
Wow.
Yeah, we're celebrating. This is our 10th, anniversary. So
yeah, congratulations.
It's been
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Does it feel like 10 years? Or does it feel longer or shorter?
Good question.
That's a very good question.
I mean, we've been working together even longer. It's like
15.
15 years since we first made contact and worked on a short film. Actually, we met over ICQ back in like.
Oh, ICQ! I've not heard that for ages. Do you still remember what your ICQ numbers were?
Yeah, don't remember.
You're giving away your age, so just be
2005,
careful. Yeah.
6 or something like that.
Damn, brings back memories.
Yeah.
I think it's the little noises that are ingrained into your head, like the little
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Yeah, that was good. So do you guys mind tell us, just as you said a lot, you guys been working for like 15 years together. Do you mind just tell us, like how you guys start, so people can know a little bit more the background of Tendril?
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
You want to start?
Sure. I mean, like it all starts off with me like back in Brazil, right? So I'm from Rio, and back then, like we kind of connected over the internet, collaborated on a project together, and it was really fun. And soon after that, I had the chance to kind of come to Toronto to meet Chris in person. And it was very briefly, it was only for like a month and a half, but it was enough to really sort of like consolidate, sort of like a friendship, right?
Yeah.
So then I went back to Brazil, and it didn't take very long. I was moving up here to work at a different company. So we were just like employees at a different studio back then. So then, like, we stayed there for 4 years or so, something like that.
Yeah, I would say around 4-ish years. Worked on a whole bunch of different kinds of projects, and just started building up a little bit of a sense of what we wanted to do with ourselves. It was really very interesting kind of connection. I'd say, there was a pretty effortless collaboration between the two of us. It just slowly evolved.
Yeah, naturally, I'd say that's very true. Like it naturally sort of like evolved into like wanting to do more, and more importantly, at one point we just felt that we wanted to have more control over where we wanted to go. So then, we kind of branched off from that other studio and started like with just the two of us initially. We had saved up a little bit of money, and in like a couple months we were able to bring some of our like best friends on board, which was two other guys. They're still here, with us at the studio. And then yeah, so it started off like everything started really small. We never really thought of things would take the proportions, the scale as where we at today. And it just kind of still is driven by passion. Like we pour a lot of love and
Nice. And you're talking about proportion and scale, just so we can understand a little bit, how many people you guys are now? And you guys have 2 offices as well. Now you got.
Yeah, that's right. We're around in the low 40s these days, full-time staff. And that's a mix. That's we have a big team of artists and designers, and then we have our more senior artists, they're directors and art directors, and then an amazing team of EPs. We have an all-female team of EPs, actually, which is totally awesome.
All right.
Super proud of that. Yeah. And producers and coordinators. We have a smaller studio down in Sao Paulo. It's a 6-person team, and right now working from home as well. But we've been growing that. A lot of artists because of Xande and also those 2 other key artists, Leo and Vinny, we have a lot of Brazilian DNA in the studio, the ethos of the studio. So that Brazil office, the Sao Paulo office, is really like an extension of the main office in Toronto. And some of those artists have moved, like Xande is now, Canadian citizen. Some others also have moved their families or have like set up in Canada permanently, or just come to visit. And we love having you know, artists come up, visit, kind of work with the team in Toronto, go back, bring some learning back, and vice versa too. We've always kind of dreamed maybe, because the winter sucks in Toronto really bad. And
you can do like a 6 months here and a 6 months over there deal kind of thing. You know,
yeah, yeah.
permanent summer.
Yeah.
Unless you're Thiago, who enjoys the cold, but it's all right.
Yeah. My dream was to have just a black card, right? So, you know, even put one on top and one on the bottom, be naked today because it's horrible here.
That's definitely seeing evil, dude.
Yeah, I could just put see evil.
Yeah, and I guess like just to make a tiny little correction or addition to what Chris just said, it's just that soon after we brought the two friends on board, we met with the two of the partners, right? So which is Kate Bay and Patrick. So Patrick is the other like creative director in the studio. He handles like a lot of the VFX, you know, work. He's a phenomenal flame artist. Has been in the industry like for a long time. And Kate she's currently like our managing director. So she helps us basically like sort of execute like our dreams. You know, like Chris and I, we focus a lot of like on the journey and the sort of where we want to go, you know, with the vision for the company. And then Kate, you know, does a tremendous, you know, amount of work to make sure that we're moving towards those goals.
Oh, that's nice.
How do you feel like the kind of Brazilian DNA or what have you has affected your works? Whenever I think of like Brazilian or just Latin America in general, I always think like really vibrant colors and really energetic. Do you feel that kind of like filters through in what you guys do?
I'd
It's
say,
actually just thinking about it. Sorry, it's an interesting juxtaposition, isn't it? Like Canadian, which is kind of more like reserved, laid back, and then you got like full force Latin American blood kind of thing, like meeting in the middle. Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
Absolutely, and it goes even further because Canada and Toronto specifically is like a super diverse city culturally.
Mm-hmm.
Just like London and New York, it's a really, really vibrantly diverse city, and the studio is totally reflective of that. There's a team of artists and everyone else, and support and producers come from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different cultures, and we really kind of cherish that mix of influences. We feel like that's sort of one of the things we really hold on to as a precious thing that kind of brings a lot of amazing ideas and perspectives into the mix. So if you look at the work, it tends to have a lot of variety. There's a lot of variety there inherently, and that's something we've always tried. You know, it's something we're shaping and wrestling with all the time to keep a coherent vision, but let diversity happen. At the same time.
So how do you balance that between the two studios as well, like Sao Paulo and Toronto?
You mean like in terms of like how we break up the teams and who works on?
Yeah, how do you make the output consistent? So obviously you can't be spread over like two bases in different time zones.
That's
quite tricky.
The truth is we're working in quite a few time zones too, because there's the studio team, but then there's also a pretty strong freelance network that we're drawing on that's all over the map. And we've got reps. You know, a lot of the work we do, like you guys, I'm sure, is based out of the US, but we're also doing a bit of work in Europe. We have reps in Europe through Partisan, and we've been doing work in Asia as well. And the artists we work with are spread across the globe. So the time zones are pretty diverse on that level. And in a given project, we can be working with, you know, pretty much across the whole gamut, like from West Coast to Central, you know, to European, and maybe like an artist like in Australia or New Zealand in the mix. So it's pretty spread out.
And the cohesiveness, I guess, like to the work, I guess, comes from the fact that we try as much as we can to touch, you know, on every single job, right?
Yeah, of course.
So nowadays, you can imagine it's like quite busy, just because we need to to basically be on almost like every single meeting to make sure that there's like, you know, a consistency about the output.
Yeah.
So just thinking, because you guys are spread over so many different time zones, how do you deal with like setting work, work and social life and family separate? Because obviously, you know, if you've got teams all over the world, then you're going to get emails at no matter what time, really. So how do you deal with that side of things?
Yeah, that's a great question too, and I would say it's been even more challenging lately with the working from home part, because normally you do, you know, when you leave the studio, you sort of tune out, but when you're
Yeah,
home
true.
and that's your workspace, the tuning out part is a little more complicated.
It's kind of hard walking to a living room and tuning out in that short distance.
Yeah, it's a challenge. We have to, we honestly like are, you know, constantly reminding each other to tune out and to take breaks, because there is a tendency to just be like turned on all the time, like you know, onto the work all the time, or be like, I mean, we're unfortunately we're always in touch. Like,
Yeah, for us, it's pretty much of a way out. Yeah, as you can, constantly like accommodating calls, and especially when we're working with China, or you know, that market, obviously, like they're completely different, like the opposite of us, right? But yeah, as long as we're happy, you know what I mean? Like, we're only doing because we love what we do, and you know, it's this the collectiveness, right? Like, it's about like being exposed to amazing opportunities, and honestly, like, what gets me off the bat is knowing that I'm working, having the chance to see the work of the best talent in the world, and to me, that's, you know, that's priceless. You know, it's just like, it makes me that much happy, right?
Yeah, and talk about just like with the whole situation of COVID as well. And you guys, of course, the main body of your work is really like heavy 3D stuff. So do you guys used to work with freelance all over the globe before, or this is something came when COVID, you know, hit and you start everyone working from home? We were talking earlier, you guys had a really good setup to manage to work from home, and of course people can work from anywhere in the globe with you guys doing the 3D, because you guys had all kind of setup. Did that happen in this last 5 months with all the situation, or you guys always had that already work with people around the globe?
Well, we've definitely have been working around the globe for some years now, and have a pretty good infrastructure for that. But it definitely is totally different to have everybody working from home all of a sudden. And there have been a lot of considerations on when the projects, like you say, the 3D stuff gets super heavy, and you're dealing with massive simulation caches, like Houdini, you know, gigabytes of Houdini caches. Or we worked on pretty early on, actually, just as COVID kind of kicked in, we were right in the middle of a couple projects, and some of them were really heavy, 4K, big 3D executions, and we worked out a lot of kinks in a hurry. The rendering was a big challenge, because obviously compositing of 4K material, you really can't do that over any sort of a network system. Like, you know, you synchronizing that amount of data is a huge challenge. Rendering all that material. So we kind of figured out a pretty good patchwork where it's a combination of using cloud-based storage like Dropbox, and also using our home-based server setup, and giving people access over VPN. So like heavy compositing over VPN, but then working on 3D over Dropbox and cloud solution, but then, you know, kind of balancing out between those two. Our whole infrastructure, actually, we moved into a data center during the COVID thing, which was a big challenge, because we were actually moving the studio during that time as well. So there was a moment in time where we had to go down for like 4 days, move all of our server racks and everything into a data center, get it up and running. Luckily, it went smoothly, and we were able to get it up and running pretty quickly. But Another big one is we do GPU rendering. We're fully GPU for the past 3-4 years now. And normally we rely on not only the dedicated render nodes, but also the workstations after hours as like a render pool. But of course, everyone has the workstations at home working on things. And so I mean, that was a kind of we're at 1/4 of the render capacity. So then we have to figure out solution. Luckily, we have an amazing IT manager, Ian and G. They're without them, it would have been impossible. They were able to hook up on the fly, like additional nodes through the data center and things like that to keep us up and running. But definitely still a challenge. It's
still a challenge. But with like talking about that, you're just talking about the GPU, and so with the guys, everyone like with the team working from home, did you guys ship like the computers for people could work from home on this like 5 months? So everyone is kind of, you spread the studio. So each one took the machines and the work.
I can imagine when COVID finishes, it's gonna be like it's like a video game going on everyone's houses to collect your packages back.
Yeah, totally. I mean that it was the only real option. Some people, but on the other hand, some people, what we realized too, and it was a huge eye-opening thing, I'm sure for everybody, is how different everybody's individual circumstances are.
Yeah.
So maybe some people have a great space to set up a little home office, but if you have 5 roommates and a tiny space, maybe
that makes really hard
at home, right? Yeah, or maybe and some staff have kids, some staff have many kids, some like literally every single individual has a totally different set of circumstances and different needs, and we've learned a lot in that process. And I think going forward, it's going to be about like what's good for you, rather than there's one thing that's good for everybody.
Yeah, it needs that flexibility, doesn't it? I think we talked about this with other studios as well. Like some people, like they found out, and probably you guys as well. Some people work better at different parts of the day simply because maybe they've got they have to take their son or daughter to nursery at some point or whatever, and having those hours of flexibility. But as long as you get the work done, it shouldn't. It doesn't really matter, does it? As long as you hit your targets.
Yeah.
And I think special work, as you guys work already with people in different parts of the globe as well, is you kind of used to different time zone as well. It's always having a system in place that works well, and the producers can keep track what everyone is doing. I think in the end, doesn't really matter much.
I guess the biggest change was it happened on the inside. It was, more from the perspective of who was already part of the collective here, right? As opposed to the freelancers, because they're accustomed to that way of working.
Yeah.
So that's where, within a few months in COVID, it started like exposing some, cracks on the wall. But we're kind of course, like the human aspect of what we do comes first. That's the most important thing for everybody to feel on a mental state that they're happy. So we've been kind of for example, we had a couple of we hired a psychologist to have
that's nice.
Group discussions, and then everybody openly can sort of express, or if they want to take on the side and have a private conversation too, with a psychologist to help them out. And that's totally good too.
And as you bring this subject, it's always nice, just because it's a subject we don't talk a lot in our field, and I think people
affects us all too.
And affects everyone, everyone get burned out and everything. So you guys, the first ones telling us, you bring someone, a specialist, to talk to the team. Did you feel like on this period, this last 5 months, people getting more anxious or people burning out fast, with the whole situation, trying to cope with the situation, what is going on in the world, in the same with the stress of the work, it's a little bit more. And it also has that pressure we just spoke, is if you go from your bedroom to your living room to your bedroom, you don't have that moment to,
work's at work.
Takes all out, Did you guys notice a lot that happen with staff, and people more open to share, you know, the experiences?
It's a really good question. I think maybe we learned by paying a close attention. Also, we have Amanda, who our HR manager at the studio, who really checks in with people on a very regular basis. The thing with mental stuff is that it's not, you know, like when you, with a lot of other things to do with, you know, with your health, like if you're eating badly or if you're not exercising, you see things right away. The results are like pretty obvious. But the mental thing is like, you know, a lot more insidious. You can be
people
burned.
hide it away too, don't they? They kind of like people try to hide it away a little bit, as if there's some kind of like shame in talking about how you feel as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think part of how we try to help with that is just really communicating a lot and being open about how we're feeling too, and letting people know that it's, you know, completely normal and okay to feel anxiety, and encourage people to take breaks. We've made sure that people really are taking breaks, and that that they are taking care of themselves during this time. And especially, like you said, it hasn't just been the work from home's already kind of stressful, can be super stressful. And then on top of all this other insanity that's been happening in the world, it's like, you know, there's a lot going on, and you're disconnected from being able to talk to the people that maybe would have made you feel more, you know.
So have you guys found that like having a psychiatrist has made like a real difference? And also what kind of feedback have you got from the psychiatrist that you probably didn't necessarily expect as well?
It's a good question. I mean, the help with that specifically was giving people practical tools and solutions and ways of handling things. Like, you know, try doing this if you're feeling this way, or try, you know, if you're like very practical coping strategies probably was the most useful outcome of that.
Yeah, and also like, you know, we all kind of experience a little bit of the same, and it's natural to then start developing some like bad habits, right?
Yeah.
Even if they're tiny, you know. So I think that was a very good sort of tip that we all got from the psychologist, was like, try to identify, you know, the things that you feel they're affecting you, you know, and they have become a bit of, you know, a bad habit. And then, you know, choose one that it's manageable enough that you can work on and break that down, you know. So, and of course, everybody's different, right? Like I've got kids, you know, so my challenge is like, you know, or drastically different in some instances than others who are like single at home. But whether or not, you know, we're all sort of like sharing the same burden and the anxiety, I feel like it's almost like to the same level throughout.
It's kind of interesting that the kind of advice is a little bit similar to how you handle like a large project. You just break it down into smaller pieces and it becomes manageable in a way. But I was kind of thinking like one of the things I find difficult to, I find a bit weird about our current situation is not necessarily knowing when it's going to end, and that kind of side of things. That's the weird thing. Like when will life, if it ever will, return back to some kind of normality? And there's no way of answering it. I find that quite I don't know, kind of tricky sometimes.
Yeah, no, we talk about that all the time too. It's very likely that there'll be lasting, permanent change, and hopefully some good change.
I think so.
But it's definitely hard to imagine that things will just return to how they were before. But they can't.
I don't think.
But you know, and again, change is not a bad thing if we can pick out the good bits and learn from a lot of the. I mean, we've learned a lot about working together. We've been really, as partners in the company, we've had to really support each other as well, psychologically as well. It's, you know, we've had therapy sessions, our meetings, like partner meetings, are like therapy sessions sometimes too. And it's kind of pulled us together a lot because we've had to, you know, be there for everybody too, and for each other. So there's a lot of care and empathy, and hopefully that can sustain even more,
like forming those kind of bonds as a company. I think after, hopefully when everything's finished, is they're long lasting bonds too.
Yeah.
And especially for you guys, running the two offices and running the team, I don't know, for me is having the studio is always feel everyone is part of your family. It's not like you have a family of your wife, your kid, but in the end of the day, everyone is depending of you as well to pay your salary, to that they can pay and they have their family. So I think that pressure play on your shoulder is quite a big thing as well. And I think having someone to talk as well probably helps quite a lot, because I don't know, for what I'm seeing, you guys probably really busy at the moment, but you're not knowing what is the situation, what can come suddenly, you don't know if people are going to be able to work, that means you don't know if you're going to be able to deliver your project, and that situation just like a lot of pressure as well.
Yeah, that was, I guess, like one of our biggest fear when we all got hit by COVID, was just the unknown, right?
Yeah.
About like
the abyss
responsibility that we all carry over like having people who've got like a small family, or you may have crossed the ocean to be here to come like cold Canada. So all of that like was just something that really kept us sort of like not sleeping at night, even though we were lucky enough, to be honest, that when COVID sort of hit us really hard, we were already like in the midst of like work on a couple of like big projects, but it was like the after, so then what next was like the big sort of like question mark. And we did experience some like projects that were scheduled to begin. Some got sort of like pulled out, they got canceled. Then you can imagine the sort of like, not a panic mode per se, but it was definitely like a bit of like a nerve-wracking sort of like situation.
Maybe we should move on from COVID. It's getting depressing.
But it's good to talk to the subject a little bit, just to open up with the industry. I think as the industry is quite friendly, a lot of things being changed in the industry, but it's still a subject we don't speak a lot, and a lot of people suffer from depression issues, and it's always good to see.
I feel as an industry we should do more about mental health, because it is one of those industries that's very like feast or famine, isn't it? And I think that piles on the mental pressure. But anyway, maybe
let's make something more.
There's a question on actually one of the questions on YouTube from Gabrielle was asking Chris if he simulates his hair in Houdini or Cinema 4D.
Well, it used to be C4D, but now it's all Houdini grooming. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought it would be GPU now, but anyway. Charles asks about the future of visual communication. Really, like, what are your thoughts on where it's going to go, and like how motion design is blending with like augmented reality and virtual reality and all that kind of side of things? Because like personally, I love VR, but I just feel like wearing anything on your face is very inhibitory. So because of that fact, it seems like it's not going to take off for the masses anytime soon. I mean, they try, people have tried to put VR out there with, for a number of years, and it hasn't become like mass adopted yet. But obviously, it made a lot of progress with Oculus and what have you. But it's still an inhibitory thing to wear glasses on your face.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we were just talking about other avenues, especially in these circumstances, to like tuning out, or let's say you are in an area where you can't connect with nature that easily, like you're in downtown Manhattan or something, or in another big city. Like, I think there's a possible like really strong application for mental health for VR, in VR and using it as a tool for health and meditation and wellness. Especially
also seeing people too. Sorry to cut in, but I mean, like, as a tool to see kind of weirdly see people. It's almost like, I think it'd be quite good as a kind of a replacement for a video conference if you want more of a visceral experience, especially right now.
Absolutely. I remember
Future pandemics.
Yeah, you're right. I like once or twice I've experienced kind of like a collaborative 3D sketch environment in VR, and that's actually really, really cool.
Yeah, I've seen a lady who's I think she was on, I can't remember her name, but I think she has like a really nice Instagram. She'll have to get out and find it. But she was like animating stuff in 3D space in VR using the paint tool thing. And you know, while she's making it, it looks really abstract. It's like, you know, like a making of video, but then she kind of pulls back and it goes through like a little like a picture frame in 3D space, and it all kind of comes together. It's amazing. I love stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah, and maybe that's the first place where like these you know, VR, AR will find like a nice home. I remember back then, like a few years ago, when we had a chance to fly down to Seattle to meet up with Alex Kipman, you know, the father of the HoloLens, and we did some work. We collaborated with them on a couple of little things, and it was really interesting because as we're meeting up with him, he painted a very kind of like interesting, amazing picture of like what the future is like. But then, even then, like, you know, since then, HoloLens was first like they were trying to give it like to the end consumers like us, but then they realized that wasn't much traction there. Plus, the price point was pretty high, so they have pivoted now, and I think they're going after the enterprise. So I do find that I'm no expert, you know, like on this subject to begin with, just full transparency here, but in my opinion, I do find that you know, pursuing like the enterprise business perhaps is a very good kind of a launching platform to bigger things later on. You know, once we get the glasses to be like as small as you know, but I think we're still years, you know, down.
The rumors are that Apple are coming out with some AR glasses, but they've been rumors for that for years. But I think that'll be interesting, because I do think one of the good things that Apple do is make they do make interfaces relatively intuitive and seamless, and they've got the power to make it to mass adoption. You know, if they can nail it, then it means like people like Samsung and Android will no doubt follow suit as well. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. I on your point, like I feel that Apple, they're super, you know, a bunch of smart people over there, right? Like some amazing PhD and scientists. So I feel that,
except for the Magic Mouse charging port.
Yeah, the approach they're taking, I have no information on this, but I feel like with the release of 5G, it seems that they're gonna probably using the phones and the devices to be the processing power unit.
Yeah, that's right.
And therefore be able to afford like to have like a very slim sort of like glasses frame, but we shall see. I don't know. I really don't know.
I think that's the way forward for it as well. You know, it has to have the processing unit somewhere else, because to wear like was it like Google Glass, where it's quite chunky and all that. Also, you can't wear it if you've got prescription lenses, which I found a bit crazy. That automatically limits your market. But yeah, I don't know. One thing I do like about AR, which years ago there was a pitch in London for I think it was what was it, Trafalgar Square, the fourth plinth. They wanted to put out a pitch to the UK creatives what should go on the fourth plinth, because all the other ones are like statues of this and that. And I said it should be like a VR an AR thing, where you could have like just, I don't know, like weird artwork or whatever. It could change like every day or whatever. I thought it could be quite fun use for AR. But the point is, but I think it'd be interesting to have it around cities, to make cities like a secret world or something. Could be quite fun.
Yeah, absolutely. The metaverse, as they call it, right? Kind of a digital overlay, virtual universe around us in this, you know, in the physical spaces that we live in.
We'll all become like avatars, like what is it? What was that massive multiplayer game? Not World of Warcraft. Was it Real Life or This Life or something like that? Second Life, that was it. We'll all become like avatars like that.
yeah. I mean, that was ahead of its time when you think about it, really. You imagine what what the second, third generation of that concept looks like.
Port it into Unreal.
Yeah, and Unreal is huge. You're totally on the nose there. We've been working with Unreal quite a bit for the past few years. Unreal Engine we're really excited about the potential to use it as in the MoGraph world as well as in other ways for interactive work. The potential is huge, and next year with Unreal Engine 5, it's going to be yet another kind of generational leap with that technology and others that are coming down the pipe. The GPUs are still on that exponential curve as well.
It's interesting with like Unreal Engine and what have you. Like, if someone's starting out in 3D, is it worth kind of like skipping Cinema 4D or what have you and just going straight to Unreal? Because obviously everything is real time and that kind of side of things. I just don't have to worry about rendering. It's almost like Unreal is taking over Cinema 4D in some ways, or Max or whatever.
Well, I think, I mean, for now, that's a really it still feels like you need an app to anchor the work in.
So it still needs to be like symbiotic.
Yeah, it feels more symbiotic for the moment. A lot of like when we're working in UE4, obviously you can do things like assemble Quixel libraries really, really fast and build out assets with the libraries that are available already. But if you're trying to do something more custom for Unreal Engine, that's where it starts to get away from something that just looks like a video game or like a photoreal environment. And maybe what's not tapped into like 100% just yet is using it as a design tool, or using it. Creating, imagine doing a spot like that Microsoft film we just looked at, but in Unreal Engine, and giving the user some control over the experience.
That's where it gets really interesting as well.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I was. They used for film. No, they had a massive screen where they can film straight. So basically, they have all the 3D set done with a massive screen. It's like stand to do a green screen, and it's all Unreal. So they can shift, the director can just go and shift the light, and you get the DOP can get the real light from the objects.
Man, that is
amazing.
That'll save a lot of issues in post-production where you get something back from a DOP who wanted like really nice shallow depth of field. Like, no, shoot it clean, and we'll add depth of field later.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because that whole world of virtual production, as it's called, is also really been taking off now too, because of course production has been affected by
it's true.
And there's a stage being built in Toronto that's a huge virtual production stage, the size of the Mandalorian stage, and that's really, really exciting. The possibilities there are really cool too, for big productions, but also even at the scale of shooting that we do collectively in the world of motion design. It's also really interesting. There are definitely ways of using that technology in an artistic way in the design realm that haven't been fully tapped yet either. So yeah, super, super exciting new tech. If you're into lighting, definitely awesome. Like you say, you can literally paint light onto walls and really control.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
You're getting the real time lighting there, and also helps so much on the DOP side. I hope that fix the phrase
fix it in post.
Fix in post. You need
so
fixing set.
I'll fix it in cinema.
Yeah. But it's just amazing to see how developed, and it's not that old, just imagine where we're gonna go in 5-10 years.
Especially with the evolution of both NVIDIA and AMD, where you've got like real-time ray tracing and all that kind of side of things. I mean, obviously it's quite quite a new stage, a young stage at the moment, so it's not quite there yet. But in a couple of years' time, when you can get like a good amount of rays, man, that's the game changer, I think. Real-time ray tracing.
Oh yeah. We actually maybe if you haven't had a chance to see it, we released, it's kind of soft launched a short piece we did. We were working on a big title sequence for the AICP Awards this year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's all executed in Unreal Engine. The plan was to have also mocap and choreographed dance in these amazing environments. And we launched the film. It's about a minute long or so. It's entirely real-time ray traced. Everything in there is using the UE4 ray trace engine, and it's already amazing. So the leap it's going to take with UE5 is yet another cool one. I don't know if you guys know Matthias Winkelmann. He's an amazing German director, creative director. He recently launched a Unreal Engine generative art bot that posts art to Instagram. That's also generative, coming out of Unreal.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's called Rachel, and an homage to the replicant Rachel. This kind of AI.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
It's totally awesome. Really cool. Yeah.
I love stuff like that. Yeah.
So where do you guys think you guys gonna, just like a question we like to ask, where you guys see you guys in 5 years time, where you want to Tendril to?
No, I don't know. In 5 years, we're going to be. I mean, we have lots of big ideas. We really want to. I'll start. We want to try to. We like the studio is really a community here in Toronto, and we want to continue that project and take it further. We always dreamed of. We have an internship program and mentorship program that we really want to expand further and extend to communities that maybe where there isn't normally connection to the design world, or maybe it's not as easy to have like access to a good computer to dive into that kind of work. We really love that. We want to do more work that has potential to create like real impact and meaningful change. We're really seeking those kinds of opportunities and trying to create them for ourselves. What would you say?
Yeah, I think everything that you said, like it's kind of, we're on the same page basically. We've been trying to participate over these discussions around some of the inequalities around the world, and so we're learning. We're not perfect. We don't have the answer for all the problems, but we're humble enough to say that we're trying to listen and put some good things in practice so we can see some changes, right, happening.
Yeah.
That's always the first step, and it's it's like steering a super tanker where it takes like hours to turn it from like left to right. It's always putting these small things in place that stack up and make a big difference down the line.
Absolutely, and a great example of that, like back then, was at one point. Again, Kate, she came to us and she called our attention to the fact that the studio was mostly like guys, was all dudes, and even though Chris and I, we never really opposed to the idea of like having more female in the studio. It's something that we were so busy, we had our heads down trying to keep moving from one project to the other. As soon as she said it, we were like, of course, we took a break. And since then we've made we hope we've made enough change to really welcome, some new sort of way of thinking. So there's a lot of important female in the studio now doing some phenomenal work. There are times when Chris and I we start laughing because we walk into a meeting, nowadays it's just online, but before COVID, and Chris and I would be the only two guys there and surrounded by 8, 10, very extremely capable women just running, a lot of the other aspects of the business, So
love to see more female directors in the motion.
Yeah, that's true.
And designers as well, right? So
talk about the female, going back to the 3D subject, how do you guys have a lot of 3D females on the team, because I know we've been talking to be on the last chat, and it's a conversation I have with a few different freelancers as well, because 3D is still that kind
it's
of
so male dominated.
It's so many male dominant. You know, do you guys had quite few females on the 3D side or more the tech side, or is normally it's more like when it goes to design wise or illustration or production, you know, creative goes more like on the 2D world, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the nature of maybe just the way the business was structured, but honestly, the female artists we work with as art directors or in leading roles are like total powerhouses. At the studio and outside, like Nidia Diaz is insanely talented, like one of the best in the industry. Runbo,
We're bringing her to
total
one of the talks.
Yeah. So
you
you know the Portuguese connection.
yeah, but there's some like great names in the industry like Joyce Ho, Helen Sue. They're out there and they're really incredible talents. I think it's just, and we've had interns also. We had an intern last year that like completely blew everyone away.
It's nice.
It's just it just a matter of just constantly staying open-minded and like helping create opportunity. And
do you feel like the work has improved because of a more even split as well? Because I always feel like, you know, if it's 50-50, then you get much better perspectives and all that kind of side of things, you know, much better product at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That the diverse perspectives thing, culturally, from the point of view of like background and upbringing, everything is like mission critical to have like bigger, you know, not get tunnel vision, you know, creative tunnel vision. Yeah.
That's what's great about a city like Toronto as well, because it's quite a diverse city from what I remember as well. I mean, like London as well, it's so like multinational. That always helps out.
Yeah. It's nice to bring different perspective, you know, to even when creatively or even like running the studio, you know, it's always good, no matter if it's a man or a woman or just diversity on race, you know, like you guys said, work with people different places in the world, you know. I think just bring different perspective, different point of views as well. I think it's really, really important to the project, you know. One thing I wanna just ask you guys, because I'm really into the whole education situation. I think not being negative, but I think we
go on, be negative.
We quite lack on education, especially UK. I think
I agree.
Here is pretty shit, to not say. Even
in regards to animation and the
creative in regards,
yeah.
I'm saying in regards to animation, especially when you compare to France, you know, British and the French had a problem in the past, you know, and they still have it now. But
yeah, now we battle on keyframes.
Yeah, but as you said about, I want to bring the questions to you said about the internship program, and my question here is, with this whole COVID, it's something I'm being really worrying about. You know, if we stay that too long, like this year has been a really really shitty year for for interns. We have an intern in the studio now, and it's just so hard, you know, to mentor someone when you're not next to them, you know, when the team is there, that doesn't get the feeling and the learning. Did you guys thought something about, you know, having this mentorship with the internship? Did you guys for anything, you know, you could share with us? Or I don't know, I'm just trying to find
how do you deal with that and COVID?
Picking people's brain.
I mean, we're missing a lot of things. That's a big one. We actually stopped calling it an internship program and started calling it a mentorship program. We both grew up in studios, and that's kind of how we learned to do what we do. We never went to a school, we never did formal education in design and animation, although that's, you know, definitely an amazing option now. Back then it was less of an option. And but the studio environment and the studio itself has always been an environment for learning and study, and always artists at different levels of in their progress and progression, and, you know, from like, you know, those who are just getting going to those who've been doing it longer. So the environment naturally has always been a learning environment, and that's totally impossible to reproduce over a video chats and dailies, all the shorthand of like the exchanges, the micro, mental microtransactions every day. Not to mention, a big part of our culture is the is happy hour on every Friday, and like totally unwinding. There's all of that. Like culture is
the culture
is really suffering the most.
Yeah,
that's like one of the most important parts of being in a company as well. That kind of that kind of hanging out culture afterwards and just getting to know everybody, like that gelling. That's really important, I think. Obviously, almost impossible right now.
It's tough for teachers too. I have a few friends who teach, and they had to go into the video. Imagine you have 20 students and you're on 20-hour-long calls a day. Right. They were just dreading that that would be like the future of education, because it could not be like the intimacy of it, like you say, being there in the same room where you can just walk over, someone can ask a question. All those things, there's no quick fix patchwork for that. I don't think we're really hoping we can start, getting together in some way, and especially those who need it the most to be there. And we need it back. I mean, it's not a good thing to just continue on like this.
I think one of the issues, especially in the UK, I'm not sure exactly about Canada, but one of the issues we have is there's a massive discrepancy from finishing university to working in the industry in terms of what stuff that you can only learn from experience. And that's one of the things that the French do really well at Super Infocom Gobelins, is they create students who are ready to go work in the industry straight away. And they're not quite sure what my train of thought was, other than it's not good. What's it like in Canada? Is it? I mean, you've got a lot of amazing film schools, like obviously over in Vancouver, and there's a lot of great animation places in Toronto too. Do the people who come out of these educational institutes, are they ready to go straight into the industry, or do they need the kind of the mentorship like you were talking about?
That's what we believe. Like freelancing is amazing, especially once you've already had an opportunity to learn how it works and how to work with others and get a lot of like really great knowledge and wisdom from people who've been in the industry for a while. Like I can't imagine just diving straight into
like Thiago teaches a course, and I remember we were hanging out with some of Thiago's students after a See No Evil show, and they're all really good, really nice. And there's this one person, and they were like, "Oh, I'm not going to go to a job. I'm going to go straight to freelance." And I just kept on telling them that, look, I think it's much better to get a job for at least 2 years and then go freelance, because if you do it the other way around, then you can burn bridges so easily, and it's such a quick paced industry that everyone knows everybody, and word just spreads like wildfire.
Yeah, I think this is a big problem we have in the industry right now. I think, I don't know, we a little bit more old school, maybe. We're a bit too old now. But in our time, you couldn't really go to freelance, I've got the same background as you guys. I start working and learn working in studios, and in that time, especially coming from Brazil, we didn't have any universities, about animation or anything like that. But I still think that like there is a lot of students visit the studio, and I do a little mentoring with them. But a lot of them answer, they want to go straight to freelance, and it's basically like, I don't know, it's much so better hard.
It's much better to burn somebody else's bridge than yours.
Yeah. But in the end, you don't really know how to manage a project, how to work as a team, That's a problem I get with a lot of freelance. People think they know how to do the job, but as soon as you get them on the spot, working with a team, collaboration, all that kind of thing, organization as well, especially if it's a massive project where you need to have.
Name your fucking layers.
And that is one problem, but you just miss that.
Make a t-shirt.
You just like, I think that situation to be in a studio, to learn from the other, and see how a real environment work.
Yeah,
it is, it's really important, and I think we're missing quite a lot with the students.
Absolutely. I think you've touched on a very important point, which is working as a team. There's not a single job that we do here that is the work of just like one person, right? It's a collective of amazing people, working towards like the same goal, but there's lots of moving parts, and it's a constantly sort of like push and pull and negotiation, right? And it's funny enough that when we're talking to freelancers, people that we haven't had a chance to work yet, it's one of our most important questions is like, do you like working, in a collective? And surprisingly, sometimes like it has come up that people just like, candidly say like, you know what, I don't like, I really don't enjoy like as a team. And we're like, thank you for saying it, because that's a recipe for disaster for us. Like, because we don't know work any other way, right? So yeah, like I do think I see the value of kind of a gaining experience, working through, the motions of jumping from one shop to the other, just gathering information and then you can like absorb enough to kind of pick and choose what it's sort of like valuable to you.
And every place working a different way as well, so it's kind of you shopping, you're learning bits and bits everywhere. It's the same if you work only for one place, you're gonna just have that. It's kind of one dimension how things is done, but when you work in different shops and that just bring a massive bag with you, when you go freelance world, you can understand, and manage people as well. If you work inside your room, maybe that's the future, people is that, but it's just no, communication is no teamwork experience on that.
I remember when I was freelancing in London, like one of the things I really enjoyed was going to different companies and seeing how different companies tackled the same tasks in a way. It's just, I don't know, I find it really quite, I don't know, it's just interesting. And it kind of adds another string to your bow. Like, you've always got a point of reference as to how to tackle something. Like, oh, if I did it this way, it might not work out. But if I tried this company's solution and apply it to this project, then it might be a better, better outcome.
Yeah. And you learn, and you never know your future. Like you guys now, run a studio, it's your knowledge.
From ICQ.
I mean, another, just like you guys made me think of another really interesting point that we hold true to, and that's part of our background, is there's a lot of value in working, at least once in your life, a really shitty job, like a service industry job that's very tough, or, when you're growing up working a few, just basic, simple kinds of jobs where you have to deal with people on a day-to-day basis and kind of understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of things. And you take that forward, like Thiago, you're saying, you get this bag of tools. You learn like what not only the good things, but also what doesn't work, and what kinds of habits or behaviors can really negatively impact and affect people. Those you take forward, and all those soft skills of communication and like interacting with other human beings and just being like a human being. You need to have some experience in life under your belt to bring that.
I think half of the job in the end of the day is communication, is dealing with people, dealing with expectation, some people is so scared to say no, is so scared, to ask questions, like I remember early days freelance, you're so scared to ask any question. So you're trying to guess what, the director or the people you're working want, instead just go and say, listen, I didn't understand that, or can I ask you a question? And that is clear to everyone, and you sit and do your work. But in the beginning, I think you're just going straight to freelance. You don't have the skills, you never been in that situation. You need to communicate, and you learn, you need to ask questions, and running a business for me is the same. It took me years to go back to clients and say, listen, how much money you have to this project? You always scared to talk about money, or ask, be clear about things, and creating, just break the expectation, I
remember back in the early 2000s, I used to work for a company called Virgin Records, who were in a Virgin Megastore, which is basically just a record shop, sells DVDs, CDs. But two good things came out of it. First of all, you realize just how fucking stupid the general public is. And then second of all, you kind of, it helps you deal with or read situations a lot better than you would do just going straight into the industry, and also dealing with situations. Like obviously nothing is ever perfect. You know, you'll still read things wrong sometimes, but it gave you a good set of life tools to go into any industry really. So that was I don't know, it was a fun time.
I think it's I think in the end of the day is still, you know, bring back experiences, you know, like working.
Did you used to work in a sushi joint, didn't you, Thiago?
Yeah, I've worked when I moved to London. I didn't even speak English, so I work in a bar, and I always want to work as a sushi chef, you know. So I learned.
Did you cut it?
I cut that. But you know, that bring me, you know, like Alex maybe has the similar experience. You know, in Brazil, it's really rare you're gonna go and work in a bar, you know, having that kind of experience. And that teach me so much when I came here, you know, teach me.
But why is that?
So
sorry to interrupt. Like, why is it unusual to work in a bar?
I think Brazil is a different set of more talk about money, you know, and
right, okay, it's like really, social status kind of thing.
It's more like social status. So if you're coming from a middle class, you'd never work kind
what
of.
About like if you're middle class but work in a high end bar?
That probably it's all right. They probably pay better. But I think that brings, you know, just a lot. For me, it was like kind of a schooling in the same way, you know, because manage is similar what you're saying, James, but teach me how to deal with situations that I would never be in that situation. And that brings back to the work we do as well. You know, we're always dealing, if it's staff wise or if it's a client wise, we're dealing with humans. You know, it's not Tendril and Coca-Cola, it's Chris, it's Alex, and
diabetes.
You know, someone from Coca-Cola you're working, and that person's job depends on what you guys gonna do. You know, in the end of the day, you guys putting them in the line. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all relationships. We're all human beings trying to navigate a million things.
Yeah,
a million things at once.
And once.
Actually, one thing I forgot to ask was, so what took you to Toronto over, like, say, like Vancouver? Was it like Blue Jays or something else?
It's my fault for sure. I'm a Toronto native, so it's all my fault. That's why
I got to show you something.
All right, guys, we're finishing the call now. Thank you so much.
Oh,
I'm joking. Just before
I should have worn it earlier.
Blue Jays jacket.
It's from I got it in about 94, 95, and it was way too big for me at the time.
Yeah, they won the World Series twice in a row.
Yeah, that was when they were winning. That's when they winning stuff. But yeah,
it just bought yesterday on Amazon, you know, and they delivered.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we're in the call, but that's a reoccurring question to us every now and then about like why Toronto. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's in a lot of ways, I guess, like, because when we first started off, if we have like a minute, Thiago, to sort of.
No, I was joking just because James left.
Oh.
I want to finish the call before he
You
comes
thought
back.
I was going to the toilet.
Yeah. No, I'm joking. We have a minute.
Yeah, so Toronto is an amazing city, as even James. I think James have been here, it seems.
Yeah, quite a few times. Yeah, I love it.
But for us, like starting from here was great, just because we felt that we're the first ones to sort of pursue this kind of like design work. So in a way, we felt that we didn't really have a ton of pressure on our backs because we weren't really trying. We didn't have a shadow over us from anybody else in town. And the city, to be honest, has been doing quite well. You know, like there's lots of great stuff happening here, not just on the design and the things, but even like sport-wise, right? The NBA, like the Raptors, like got, you know, our very first like NBA title last year. So things are happening here, even though like a lot of people don't really associate Toronto necessarily with certain like specific.
Because they don't know, man. They don't know.
Yeah, it's a cool balance. It's like it has some of the nice aspects of a big city like New York or London, but also the nice things about a smaller city like Portland, kind of, or Vancouver. You know, like there's a nice things are walkable and it doesn't feel too super dense, but it still has some really beautiful kind of like world-class touches, you could say, I guess. But
It's still a world. It's very much a world city.
yeah. But definitely an underdog. Toronto's got famous for its underdog.
Totally. Mentality. The complex. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to extend the question, why Sao Paulo?
It's a good question too. I mean, it started in Rio.
Ain't no Blue Jays in Sao Paulo.
No,
Yeah.
Sao Paulo. Are you from Sao Paulo?
I'm from Sao Paulo, yeah.
I mean, you kind of you posing the question, but I think you know the answer.
Yeah. But no, so let me shift to why Brazil. If you guys said that, is just because you're Brazilian and it has a lot of talent. We had this conversation before. I just want to bring that because it's nice. You guys really well established in Toronto, you know, kind of that. Why bring to Brazil, you know, especially when we're talking about, if we're talking about money, you know, the Rio is really weak compared to anything else in the world, you know, and we have lovely presidents in Brazil, you know, but take a part of that.
Sure.
Let's not go there.
But why you guys went to Brazil?
I mean, it's mostly about the talent, to be honest. Like it's the connection first, because some of our closest friends that are there down in Rio and in Sao Paulo and other places. Actually, one of a very close friend of mine, Rafael, was from Brazil before we had even met. There's a lot of Brazilians in Toronto as well, and
they're everywhere, man.
Yeah, they're everywhere in London.
True.
Oh yeah, totally. It's hugely talented population of artists, and that, I mean, that's the primary reason for us. But also, just it felt like that was a logical thing. You know, it's because we're so directly connected to the country. You and family and other friends.
Yeah, I'm trying to think over here, and you're absolutely right. There was a time that we were kind of playing around with the idea of like opening a new office, and we went through like a short list of places, but we all kept coming back to Brazil, and so then we opened in Rio, which was amazing as a testing platform, so to speak. But the pool talent in Rio, it's much smaller, right?
Yeah.
We decided to move things to Sao Paulo, which has been working quite well.
So I mean, excuse my ignorance. Is Sao Paulo more of a creative city than Rio in terms of like animation design?
Sao Paulo is the economic capital of Brazil. Let's say.
Yeah. I agree. I'd say, don't want to take sides here or create any sort of rivalry between the two cities, Rio and Sao Paulo, but because I'm from Rio,
he's from
I can speak.
You're from Pinheiral, man.
Well, it's a small city outside of the main city. But Rio, it's known for its people just enjoying life. You've got like beach and all
the beach, yeah, of course.
Whereas like I feel that Sao Paulo people have a much better sort of balanced life. They know how to, when it's time to enjoy, to party, and they do it in a great way too. But they're very focused, you know, like there's a lot of like working ethics.
Is it kind of like New York and LA in a way, where LA is a bit more chill, but New York knows how to party and focus a bit more than LA?
Yeah, it's a similar vibe.
Is that a shit analogy, or is it all right?
I think so, right? It's that city and beach mentality, you know, like
which I understand the people from Rio, right? Like they open their window in the morning and it's like a gorgeous vista, and they're like, oh man, I know I've got a lot of stuff to do, but
I have 2 hours break.
I gotta go down, you know, like to the beach and to the city. And they might plan to do that only for half an hour, but then they look at it, like, oh gosh, 3 hours later, I'm still here.
Yeah, Brazilians are always late, you know. So.
Yeah, never known one to up on time.
Yeah, no, but it's good to know. It's just like to show, because I know there is a lot of Brazilian guys watching here. It's just good to explain why you guys went there as well, because it's a kind of a similar way. I think I took Cookie to São Paulo is because of talent as well, and of course the connection, the same you guys say. It's nice to hear from you guys as well.
But also it means going home is a tax write-off.
Yeah, that means not at the moment. You don't want to go home. No?
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, it's good. So one question. I think we just hit like an hour now. So
Hour and a bit.
just now and a bit. So let's do the last two questions. One thing we like to ask, what you guys do. I think I know. I think you already answered the question, but it's nice to hear. What you guys do to keep on top of the game, as you guys one of big studios out there, got big name. What you guys keep doing, then you think reflect on your work?
How do you stay fresh?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of things. I mean, everybody individually is pushing their own art all the time. So every artist and designer at the studio and producers, everyone involved in the company is on some level, on a personal level, exploring and doing R&D. But then we also, every year, we've always committed to some kind of a passion project, like an R&D project. And it takes on lots of different forms. There have been years where it was like a VR film. We made one year a mobile game. And lately we've been pushing the real-time 3D quite a bit. So that platform of passion project has been pretty successful for us, because it's like obviously a way to explore something that maybe there isn't an immediate client opportunity to test the waters with. And on our own dime, obviously, and sort of like have total control over the process and experiment.
Totally. And I feel like another fold to that is the fact that we get to work with a lot of like tech companies, right? So by association, because they are always like pushing the envelope, right? They're always coming up with the next device, with the next iOS and so on. So we feel that because we're on that kind of train, so it's a kind of like a natural sort of way of thinking for us, because we need to stay fresh and so you get all the combined sort of like make to an interesting kind of like chemistry and the people too, a lot of it comes down to finding the like-minded individuals that sort of want to do the same. So
it's tech heavy, right? Like 3D as a form of design and art is super tech heavy, and the tech is definitely evolving like nonstop. I mean, since we started doing 3D, it's probably been 20 years for us as individuals. The arc of 3D graphics technology alone is just like insane. I mean, it's
crazy,
to design. It's crazy.
Like if you go back 20 years, it was basically Bryce 3D donuts in like oceans. And that was it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like absolutely. So I think
Bryce.
If you've been in it, for any length of time, you catch on to the fact that you're going to be in it for the long haul and constantly be learning the new tools and the new techniques that are popping up every year. Like it's like the book gets rewritten every couple of years on how you can generate content inside of a computer digitally, basically.
Yeah, and also like we, to complete that is the concept that we don't know where this is going, right? We really don't have an idea of where things are moving towards. For us, I think the most important thing is that we're just open-minded people and we keep trying. We make tons of mistakes every day, and with hopes that at least once a year we're going to strike a nerve and something we'll kind of emerge out of that, and then we're gonna ride that wave for a little bit until we hop on the next one, hopefully.
Yeah, nice. Should we pick one last question from the YouTube, James? There is a good one
there's
there.
unfortunately my Chinese is terrible, so I apologize if I pronounce the name incorrectly with the tones. But Wen Hao Tan asks, can I find out more about Tendril's approach to projects and clients, as the work is very diverse? Is there a single approach? Is there a single approach or pipeline kind of thing?
I mean, I guess there are different pipelines for different projects, and every director or lead sort of has their own style, but there are some consistencies and some methods that are like tried and tested for us. On the character side, we tend to follow a more linear process where we do concept art and storyboards, and it's more linear. But on the design end of the spectrum, especially with the more abstract 3D, it's like it's largely thematic, conceptual, and about feel. So we do story beats and thematic beats, usually as a way of breaking the problem down into digestible chunks. And then we just dive into like really hardcore visual R&D in those buckets, like in those different territories, and see what happens. And then the picture emerges out of that. So it's not a yeah.
It's like from the fog, something appears.
Kind of, yeah. Totally. You sort of want to create a framework and a bit of a map that's enough to like walk along, but not try to preconceive it too much, because you are going to discover the best things along the way.
It's always through evolution, isn't it? Like, oh, I'll try this idea. What about this person has a look at this? Oh, why don't you try that? And that's always how the best stuff comes out anyway.
Totally. But with character work, it's totally the opposite. And narrative, it needs to be
true
thought out and scripted and directed like down to the point. Otherwise, it just completely flies off the rails.
It's kind of interesting how the solution is so contradictory to the other, depending what the project is, or what the if it's character design has to be locked down. If it's something else, it's like, nope, that's fine, just go with whatever, evolve it. It's just interesting because it's all it's all creative work. It's all created under the same banner, and it all has like a consistent outcome. It's just interesting how the methodology differs.
Do you feel difference if we separate the two, type of projects, let's say more character wise and more the abstract when you need to do the R&D? Do you feel it's a lot easier to sell to a client when it's a character driven or is more narrative, easy story than when it goes to more like abstract when you need developer R&D to show? Or do you think nowadays clients has a better understand and comes to you guys and say, oh, we wanted that crazy stuff you guys do?
And which do you prefer as well?
Tough question. I mean, the thing is like we each have the things we love, and we have slightly different tastes, but then you expand it to the directive team, and then you expand it to the rest, and there's a lot of different loves.
A lot of input there. A lot of input, yeah. And so they different, and it changes over time, but there are definitely a diverse tastes and diverse desires and loves around the shop. But
I think we love it all.
Yeah,
I think that's the short answer, perhaps. But what we're trying to do again, which has been in the making, we've been, the studio is just celebrating its 10th anniversary now, and you'd be surprised to find out that we're still sort of, grabbing some ingredients from one place, fusing with another, and so on, right? So when it comes to the character space, so to speak, like that, we're in the process of doing that now. There's some quite interesting new coming projects that you see that there's some elements of what we've been doing so well in the abstract, end of things, sort of permeating, more into like the character stuff. So it's a constant sort of
they feed into each other as well.
Would you ever combine the two? Because at the moment you've got got really lovely character stuff and really lovely abstract stuff. but I can't see that many where it's kind of like like a combination of them. You know, like maybe like the beauty rest project, you got loads of the really nice bubbles. Maybe one's got like a really weird base that comes around or whatever. I don't know. There's loads of ways you can combine them.
I would say the closest we've come to it so far is there's a project we did for Shopify last year where the characters are very abstract. They're still, characters in a traditional sense, but they're starting to head toward that kind of level of abstraction. And then more recently, you'll see in these projects that Alexandre mentioned that are coming out, that we really pushed intentionally a little further into like how abstract can we make characters feel and how much of a design lens can we put into that.
Yeah, I think it's out actually as of today on the Microsoft Instagram feed.
Yeah,
it has like some character
you're right.
work
Yeah,
that they just put up on their own. But we're gonna do a more in-depth of like showing a bit more of like the design process in the coming weeks. But to answer your question, absolutely, it's yes. It's this constant sort of like, pot, where we're just trying to fuse a bunch of like cool stuff and hopefully something interesting and unique, will emerge.
Look forward to seeing the results of your labor.
Thanks.
Cool. So we just hit 1 hour. Do you want to pick last question? And 1 hour and 25 now. So do you guys up to last question or?
Yeah.
You can pick last one.
I can pick. So
what are you wearing?
They're wearing black t-shirts and we're wearing white t-shirts.
That's true.
I can see that.
Damn it! But you don't know below the waist, man. You don't know below the waist.
So just talking, just to carry on the question of, I can see also you guys do a bit of 2D, like the motion, let's say motion design, After Effects live, but you guys mainly like more the abstract and more the character side. Do you guys feel you guys gonna carry on this route, trying to find what you guys liking more and get to one kind of style you guys want to go, or do you want to keep pushing ideas from whatever is the best solution for the project?
That's a really great question. I think what probably the biggest evolution for us has been to be a little more coherent on a certain level, but we also are very open-minded. Like Alex said, we don't want to close the door to anything necessarily. We definitely moved away from doing narrative or character-driven cell animation and 2D, like pure 2D kind of work that amazing studios, Giant Ant, Oddfellows, and Moth and Golden Wolf, like that. It requires such a specialized staff skill set that it's very difficult to do pure 2D, really abstract 3D, a little bit of live action, visual effects, AR, VR. I mean, it's like at a certain point it becomes kind of an unmanageable task to try to be.
It's like you spread yourself too thin.
Yeah, and you can't really you sort of limit the level the work is going to get to if it's spread too much horizontally.
No, that's good. And just to finish, any big projects coming up on the personal project? You guys talk a little bit. Anything you have a date to release, then we can keep our eyes.
I mean, we've definitely got some stuff coming out soon. Sadly, that Unreal Engine AICP project I mentioned kind of got put on hold and sort of sidetracked completely because of like COVID. The event was canceled, so we're
that's a shame.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame, but I think that we'll, the year ahead will be where we conceive of something new that we're doing for ourselves. At the moment, the studio itself, where we're actually sitting right now, is kind of going to be a bit of a project, because if we turn the camera around, all you'll see is a gigantic mess of crap everywhere. We moved all our things in, but it's not really set up as a studio. So our work for the next couple months is going to be just kind of like getting the space set up to a certain level. Maybe we can start doing some hanging out here, and maybe meeting once a week kind of thing. Getting people into the shop. So when the studio's set up, maybe we'll share like a kind of with you guys some pictures.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah, it'd be nice to see. Yeah.
Do like a time lapse, like a before and time lapse and after kind of. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Totally.
I'm more interested on the opening part as well. Just tell me the date so I can look for flights.
Absolutely.
If we don't have to quarantine when we get home.
Yeah. Well, you love the cold, Tiago. You love the cold.
I will love. The only problem, I may stay with you guys. You know, you guys need to tolerate me longer.
Welcome anytime.
Yeah.
Doors open. 100%.
Yeah, no, I will pop some point. Believe me. But guys, we just hit an hour and a half, so we don't want to take a lot more the time. And the chat has been brilliant. You know.
Yeah, huge thank you.
Yeah, really thank you guys. You know, to come over, and I think people seems really happy. We touch a lot. Subject is nice, you know, especially with all these mental health things, you know, diversity. I think is nice to bring and see how the other studios coping with that as well, you know. But thank you for sharing your experience as well with us.
Oh yeah, totally. Got to take care of each other, right? And ourselves.
Yeah, sure, man.
Yeah, we're not like rival companies. I think everyone's just I think the good thing about the creative industry is that everyone's acting with everyone else's interest. We're not like, you know, you versus them kind of thing. It's just global community.
Yeah, I think sharing helps everyone, especially people coming up on the industry, you know, is
it's absolutely.
It's always good to understand how the big guys doing, you know. But thanks so much for your time, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
So we'll be back with another chat on the 25th of August, I think it is, with Cub Studio. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. And
so we're gonna do the YouTuber thing. So smash that like, subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to do that. I start putting the subscribe button there. You just here, guys. You just press where it's
I don't know where it is, so I'm just gonna point.
Yeah, and we also hit 1,000 subscribe, and I promise we would do a t-shirt raffle. So next show we do a t-shirt raffle for the people that subscribe. Cool.
Every t-shirt comes with free COVID.
Yeah. All right. That
maybe not. That's a lie. Take that back.
Yeah, that was.
Edit that out.
I add that. Cool, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, man. Take care.